How's everybody doing? I'm Darrell Bennett. I wanted to just encourage somebody to this evening to do it again. Do it again. I know I did a whole broadcast on this, but somebody needs to hear it again, so I'm going to say it again. Do it again. If you don't get anything else out of what I say today and you sign off right now, then I've said enough for you. Do it again. See, sometimes you have to be willing to forget the past in order to push into the future. The story goes that a little kid asked Nelson Mandela when he was alive, is it true that you don't remember anything from your time in prison? And he said, yes, it's true. And the story goes that the girl said, but isn't it also true that you were there for 27 years? And he said, yes. And she said, and you can't remember anything? And he laughed and said, no, I can't. And she said, so the story goes, you're a silly old man. And he just began to chuckle. I don't think that Nelson Mandela was meaning literally he did not remember 27 years of his life, because who could forget that? But I believe what Nelson Mandela was talking about was he had forgotten the pain to the point where he would not allow it to hold him from his future. We don't forget the lessons, and we don't forget the transformation, and we don't forget where we've come from. But sometimes in order to push forward, you have to learn to forget. There is a gift in forgetting. That's why Paul said, I have not counted myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do. He said, one thing, I may not do 20 things, but one thing I will do, and that is forgetting those things which are behind and pressing forward to those things that are ahead. And so many of us, we are holding on to our past. See, there's a difference between being freed and being released. So you might have been released because the thing let go of you, but you're not free because you haven't let go of the thing. You want to know what you're holding on to? Listen at what your mouth is talking about. It is amazing to me how people will spend their entire time rehearsing things that happened in the past. I remember I was just coaching somebody and they were saying that they wanted to get a better job, and I was helping them with the interview. We couldn't even get through the mock interview because all they kept doing was talking about all the times in the past that they had been shot down for a job. And I was thinking that is going to block you from your future, because that's all you're focused on, or who did you wrong, and who was wrong, lied on you, and who schemed against you, and who plotted against you, and how it was done. It wasn't right, and I had the job, and then they came to me the last moment and said I couldn't get it because of something in my background. And I'm like, all of those things might have been true, but you have to learn to forget some of that, because the more you hold on to it, you walk into your present circumstance with all of that baggage from the past, and it blocks you from your blessing. And I wonder how many of you, the reason why you're not moving forward is because you are continuing to hold on to the past. You have refused to forget the past. I don't mean forget the lessons, people. I mean forget it to the point where it doesn't keep holding you back. One guy said to me, he said, Darrell, even through everything that happened in your life, you never lost your smile. And that was a nice compliment from him. It was very charitable. I said, yeah, I did lose my smile a few times, but I found it back. Because see, this is what I learned. If I lose my smile and my shine now, I can't blame that on my past. That's where I am right now. And some of you are walking into a present circumstance with so much of the hurt and the pain and the bitterness and the resentment of the past that's what's blocking you. And you keep looking in the rearview mirror of your life, trying to figure out why nothing is moving forward. And I want to encourage you today, do it again. What do I mean? Let me tell you a quick story, and then I'm going to give a few words, and I'm going to jump off. The scripture says that when Jesus first encountered Peter, that he had been fishing, and they had been fishing all night. And Jesus said, have you caught anything? And they said, no, we've been fishing all night and we've caught nothing. It's a whole message in that. They have been working all night and nothing worked. I don't know who I'm speaking to, but for some of you, it's been a long night and nothing has worked. You've tried to build your business and it has not worked. You've tried to get to the next level in your career and it has not worked. You've tried to pursue a relationship and it has not worked. And you've caught nothing and it has angered you. And they were bitter because they said they worked all night and they caught nothing. And you got to understand, these were not fishers for leisure. They were commercial fishers who fished for business. This was their livelihood. They were not, off on vacation. If they didn't catch anything, that means financially there would be a consequence. And so they told Jesus, we fished all night and we caught nothing. And Jesus said, okay, well, why don't you take your net and cast it on the other side? Now, they were not in a yacht. They certainly were not in a cruise ship. The size of the boat would have probably been the size of a couch that you might be sitting on watching me now. So the width wouldn't have been more than 4 feet. What would be a difference going from one side to the next when it's only 4 feet? Knowing anybody that's ever fished, that once the daylight breaks, it's harder to fish. And so not only were they in a time where it was not an optimal time because it was light and not dark, but now Jesus is telling them, oh, just throw the net down on the other side. And Peter said something very powerful. He said, all right, but, I don't see what it's going to do, but at your word, I'm going to do it. And I need you to understand something. Sometimes you got to just trust God, even though you don't know why it's going to happen, how it's going to happen. He said, at your word, I'm going to do it. He was skeptical, but he said, at your word. And some of you just need to understand you got to do it again. People, do it again. You keep talking about, well, last year when I tried the business, it failed. And I wrote the book and it didn't sell well. Do it again. I went to the bank. They wouldn't give me a loan. Do it again. And you might have said, I've done it 4 times. I've done it 5 times. Darrell, you don't understand. I lost everything in the fire trying to go for it before. And I'm here to remind you, to encourage you, to inspire you, to motivate you, to push you, that now is your opportunity to do it again. Stop talking about what didn't happen. If Peter had stopped listening to Jesus and started looking at the circumstances only, he would have missed everything. Now, Peter was not so caught up in faith that he didn't see the circumstances. That's why he was skeptical. He's like, we did it all night and it has not worked. What do you mean, cast the net on the other side? But he said, at your word, I'm going to do it. And some of you need to have an at your word faith. It may not look like it's going to work. It may not seem like it's going to work. It might feel like the time has passed, that your window has shut, that you're too old, that you're too washed up, that it's not going to work. But I want you to know that if you will have an at your word faith, that God will begin to open up the windows of heaven and pour you out something you cannot, could not, would not have room enough to receive. At your word, I'm going to let down the nets. And now you know the rest of what happens, or maybe you don't, but I'll share. Not only did they catch so much fish that the nets almost broke. That's the first thing. They couldn't even haul in everything. So we know this was a supernatural thing. They walked away from everything at that moment because Jesus said, I did it here, but now I'm going to make you fishers of men. And Peter realized all along that it had nothing to do about the fish. Have you considered that to do it again and the thing you failed at before had nothing to do about the thing, but that God was trying to show you something in the failure. He was trying to show you something in the turmoil. He was trying to show you something in the storm. And Peter says, I'll walk away from everything and follow you. And before we know it, Peter is told by Jesus, you are Cephas, Peter, and upon this rock, I'm going to build my church. And to this day, he is one of the most talked about people in the Bible and did more perhaps than any other apostle. And it all started because he said, at your word, I'm going to do it. It does not make sense, Jesus. I think you're a little bit off your rocker because this doesn't look right. But at your word, I'm going to do it. And I've come here to remind you today that if you will do it again, something great is going to happen in your life. My name is Darrell Bennett, and I want you to know you can come back swinging. And if you understand what that really means, great things are going to happen for you because you can't come back unless you fell back. And so now is your time to come back. Do it again. My name is Darrell Bennett. Thanks for sharing.